people talk about this idea of out of the box thinking. I'm sure everybody must have heard this, out of the box thinking, and there are so many experts that will help you to get out of the box. But the problem is that we need to find out how did we get into the box. Now, the box that we are talking about is called knowledge. There is no way you can get out of the box thinking. Is impossible within the modern paradigm. It will put you into another box, that's all. The only way you can get out of this box is to learn to be in process, learn to be in knowing. Engaging with knowledge is bound to create boxes and boxes, because it's a box, it's a product finally. And also the kind of confidence that we have, it also comes from the certainty. The color of sky is blue, everybody is certain, you're very confident. This also comes from the again, it's a damage actually. A learning mind is a humble mind. It is never certain, it's always open. Openness is what connects with you to humility actually. So these two comes together. And of course, this is also the why that there is no creativity at all in the modern minds. So education is about knowledge, language, description, noun, past, absent, decontextualized. See, I'm talking about noun because in the modern context, if you look at I have observed two kinds of languages being spoken about, spoken. In the literate, realm, there are more nouns in the language, whereas in the non-literate places, there is more verb. Because they are in process, they are a happening place. Whereas here, because we are always dealing with products, the language itself has more nouns. But this is a very interesting kind of thing that could be explored further. And also in these two paradigms, what is very interesting to understand is that in the modern realm, we are always made to be absent. There is nothing that makes you present. Whereas within the context of natural learning, you're always present. That presence is established all the time. So this is a fundamental difference between a person who has knowledge and the person who is in knowing. These are two different paradigms actually. So education is about language, thought, reason. And learning is about world, experience, and comprehension. I would like to say is that there has been several studies that has happened in these areas. But none of this is you will not find it in the mainstream. Many of the studies are there if you really look for it. And so this is a very interesting thing that I came across by someone called Eva Maria Sims, Literacy and the Appearance of Childhood. It's a very interesting study in which she says, childhood appeared on the horizon of Western consciousness as a separate phase of life with its own social practices, schooling, fashion, entertainment, because adulthood had changed. The more complex society became, the longer it took to make transition from infant state to that of adulthood. The child is only childlike in comparison with what is not childlike. So when adult became unchildlike, the true nature of childhood appears. Children became children when adult became more adult. So this fundamental shift, again, as she has pointed out, it is actually literacy that begins the whole process of shift. You see, it's very clear that when you don't need literacy to understand the world is available to everybody. And learning is not a choice. Your senses are all the time learning. Learning is not a choice at all. But when literacy came into existence, when knowledge then turned into something that is written down in the book, your senses no longer was used. Naturally, then children became dependent on the modern adult, the educated adult. So the dependency itself was created in this strange way by convincing the child that the knowledge lies in the book. It doesn't exist anywhere else. So you have to read and we will teach you that. So it clearly creates a different kinds of beings, But this, if you go into a rural tribal area, you will not find this kind of a shift. The quality that the child has, it is carried on, the playfulness, the kind of happiness, contentment that they have. No boredom. You go to any rural area, you will not find people bored like the children. Of course, now in modern places, children are bored. That's a different story. But in a rural tribal, communities, there's no sense of boredom at all. It's nobody. So it's very important to understand that what is it that changed, shifted us from a way of being which is actually very, very psychologically healthy into this absolutely unhealthy beings, which is neither physically healthy nor psychologically healthy. What is it that made modern human into this is something that is worth looking at. And this is another, Ivan Illich is another very, very important person. I will just mention few people, and of course later also, if you are interested, we can share a few things that you can read. And I also hope that slowly that a community can be formed that can take up some of this research a bit more seriously. So if I actually look into the research that is happening in the Western world, there is so much of funding, so much of research happening, but absolutely on the wrong path, because it is all about how to teach children, all about how to teach. There hardly any research on re-looking at school based on how children learn. Absolutely no. So if you look at what is happening to modern life, there is a total homogenization of what is happening, because I'm looking at the impact of that in the whole world now, that how it has, whole modern society has become thinking alike. Same subject is taught everywhere. Same subject. Even in design and architecture, even your aesthetic sense is taught exactly that is taught in the Western world. Even today, after I don't know how many years of what they call as independence, or whatever you want to call them, still teaching them. What have we become independent of? So what I'm telling is that human beings have become human knowings, because we are preoccupied with knowledge. Meanwhile, our beingness is lost. So schooling produces second-hand, cognitively damaged, culturally uprooted, homogenized, fragmented people, but very egoistic. They think they know everything. That's a different story altogether. So this is the another trap that we are into. The trap is that we have no access even to know ourselves. This is the trap that we are in, which is actually much deeper. It's like I used to say that suppose our faculty called understanding itself is damaged. How are we to then understand anything? Understand that something is wrong, because that itself is problematic. And this is what is happening actually, because the realm has shifted. Understanding that should happen in your whole being is understanding happening in the realm of language. So you are satisfied. You think you have understood it. So you create an illusion that you know. But in an actually inner way, nothing is known. Because when somebody else writes another book, you will shift to that. So where is the basis? First of all, so this is the thing with critical thinking. What is this critical thinking you're talking about? What do you know to do any critical thinking? Suppose somebody gives you 4 books. How do you know which is right? Have you done any work? Have you explored authentically? Or you're taking sides? Actually, this is what is happening. If you actually look into the modern research in cognitive science, it is exactly the way how a blind man is, people are explaining elephant. This is what is happening. Wherever they are touching, they are explaining. Somebody is telling it is language that is important. Somebody is telling it is context that is important. Somebody is telling it is movement that is important. It's quite interesting. It's also quite interesting that in the initial stages of cognitive science, they started telling that it's only the mind that is in cognition. After I don't know how many years, now they are claiming that no body is important, emotion is important. This afterthoughts is something that is very strange. It's all afterthoughts. So this, what I'm trying to say is that there is a system available to you to know without fragmenting and without creating your mind to create knowledge. It's available, it's there that for you to see.